Um, we like to bring some folks from outside of our section as well as feature some from inside of our section just to kind of go through a list of questions, talk about the business and the industry, and more than anything, try to teach one another some best practices that are working at our facilities. So we are recording this so that those of you who are on live with us, you'll be able to see your smiling face at a later date. One quick reminder from the section business side, we do have the spring member conference coming up in just under a month. That's going to be on March the 25th in Lexington at the Marriott Griffin Gate. And we're going to have a keynote speaker, motivational speaker, going to be fantastic. And then we're going to do the breakout sessions in the afternoon again that were really, really popular back in the fall. So if you haven't registered for that yet, keep your eyes peeled. And on behalf of the Education Committee, we look forward to hosting you and having you that day. So on to the order of business for today. I'm a believer in that if you're going to be successful, you got to find folks smarter than yourself and ask them questions constantly. And today I'm honored to have two people who fall in that category on the call. Bill Trojanowski. He and I served on the PGA National Board of Directors together. It was a nice 2 or 3 years we got to spend together, I guess 2 years on that board. And man, he is just a brilliant, brilliant operator. And I'll let him do a little more of his own intro. So Bill, tell us a little about yourself, where you've landed now and what you're doing.
Sure. Well, hey, thanks, Kelly. Awfully kind words. I would say enjoyed the 2 years with you immensely as well, and learned a great deal, during our time together. I entered the industry a little different than most of the PGA professionals. I came through the hospitality link. I think it's perhaps a little more normal today to say the word hospitality with PGA, but back 42 years ago, when I first came on board, it was, teaching and playing and administering handicap and retail and all those things. I came in through Hershey, and spent 17 years with Herco, and learned the art of hospitality, with that organization, and, really found a way to blend that into, the operations that I brought out. From there, I moved on just briefly to Central New Jersey and opened a $34 million property in Central New Jersey. That was a great experience. Basically, that was right as the computer age was starting. Things were changing. Believe it or not, fax was the new thing back then, right? So I'm really dating myself here. But that was a great experience and really launched me into my career. From there, I made it out to the West Coast for 17 years. 5 years at a boutique resort in the foothills, and then another 12 years with Half Moon Bay and the Ritz-Carlton, right there on the coast south of San Francisco. There, I learned the importance of service, and my network was broadening very fast. And I would say that's, I think, Kelly, where you really started to reach out to your network a lot. It was perhaps halfway through my career, I understood that, there was a lot more out there than what was in front of you, or that you could just, access quickly. But if you really dialed into your network, boy, you can move along quickly. And right around COVID, I got a call for an opportunity here on the East Coast, from Copland, Keebler, and Wallace at a private club. Had not been in the private side of the industry. I had made a couple of attempts to go, had some offers to go, but each time I just didn't feel right. This one did. And my wife and 2 children, I made it out to the Philadelphia area, and we're at Huntington Valley Country Club now. And almost 3.5 years into it, it's really been a great experience. So through it all, I rely heavily on my network. I'd say more day to day than I ever did It's making that phone call and exchange of information makes you so much smarter, and brings so much more to the table. So that's my version. Sorry for the long-winded answer there, Kelly. I hope that answered the introduction you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely perfect, Bill. And Bill is one of those folks he referenced in my network. I call him once or twice a year, like, can you believe this? Or what in the heck am I supposed to do now? And he always has great counsel for me. So take his words of advice and use any one of the folks on this call for that very reason. Next up, we have what I'd call a bit more of a hometown hero here from right here in the section. Keith Reese, our recently named Kentucky section Golf Executive of the Year. Congratulations. Very, very deserving there. Getting ready to host a major championship here in, what is that, like 2.5 short months away?
I think it's 73 days.
Not that you're counting.
Yeah, not that we're counting or anything.
Well, Keith, give us a little background. I mean, obviously, a lot of folks on the call will know your face, but give them a little more detail into kind of your journey.
Yeah, thank you. Hometown hero is a bit of a stretch, though, Kelly. We'll tone that down a bit. But happy to be here on this call, and thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I've been on a couple of these and have learned an awful lot from you and the other panelists that you have. I'm originally from Augusta, Georgia, so golf is kind of gets in your blood a little bit. Golf, but I didn't really think of golf as a career until I was a senior in college, and kind of fell into doing some work with the Golf Digest schools when I was working up in New England in the summertime for a summer job. And just really kind of fell in love with that part of it, the school structure, the instruction. It was a great time for the Digest schools. Peter Costas was still teaching with them, and Jack Lumpkin and Davis Love Jr., just an unbelievable group of instructors. So learned an awful lot. So really, when I graduated, they asked myself and another guy if we'd travel around with them and go to Florida in the wintertime, spend 3 months down there, and then head back up to New England. And so I did that for a couple of years, and just really it wasn't my lifestyle anyway to be able to pack everything into a Pontiac Grand Prix in a matter of 1 hour, hit the road, and then you're on to a new spot. So I happened to be working for one of Tony Pancake's college roommates, and opening up a facility in Birmingham, a practice facility there. And Tony called him, this is the networking side of it, and said, hey, do you know someone that might want to be an assistant professional up here for me at Valhalla? So that's kind of how I wound up in Kentucky. I was fortunate enough to get that position. Worked for Tony here at Valhalla as an assistant for 6 years, and then moved to Lake Forest for a year. And then I was fortunate enough to be hired back at Valhalla in '97 as the head golf professional. And then did that through 2012 when our general manager retired. Again, very fortunate to be able to move into this position as the general manager at Valhalla. So yeah, it's been a great home here in Kentucky. It's been a great home at Valhalla. A lot of really exciting stuff going on now with the change in ownership, and it's been a busy 18 months. We've built a new maintenance facility, relocated it and rebuilt it. We've renovated the entire clubhouse. We're blowing up the gate, the entrance drive now, and created a little area to the left as you drive in called Valhalla Farms, where we'll actually house a couple of thoroughbreds for Second Stride. So a lot of interesting things going on. And now that we're wrapping up the renovation, we've got a PGA Championship just 72 or so days away. But it's been a busy time, but it's been one of the most rewarding of my career, I would say.
Fantastic. I didn't realize you've been employed at Valhalla for, what's that, nearly 30 years? Is it
33? Yeah, 33
okay.
Years.
In your current kind of leadership role in like 27 consecutive. That's impressive. So congratulations on that. And I'm going to kind of chip in with some thoughts here and there as well. I've had a few folks say, I want to hear what you have to say. I don't really believe them, but I'm going I'm going to chip in with an opinion or an idea as we go along as well. I'm sure everybody on the call knows me. You see too much of me within the section, but Kelly Williams, my official title, club manager, general manager, jack of all trades, master at none here at Greenbrier Golf and Country Club. So without delaying us anymore, I'm going to kind of dive into some questions that I've sent these two gentlemen. And I certainly, we got a small group on, but I welcome it being a conversation. If you want to post a question in the chat, or if you just want to pop your hand up and you want to hear a little bit more about an idea or thought that that any one of our panelists presents, by all means do it. That's how we're going to learn the most. But I've asked each of them to be prepared to kind of touch on your leadership and management philosophy. Bill, I'm not going to make you go first all day, but I'm going to ask you to go first one more time, and then Keith will maybe get some back-to-back questions. But just how do you operate as a leader, and how do you see yourself in that role?
Gosh, I think first it's, setting the example day in and day out at the club, with your team, and, riding, very hard with your work ethic and what you bring, making sure that, really my team knows that I'm there for them first. As far as the style that, I believe it's first transparency and really understanding the mission that, we're all driving towards, so that we have alignment. I think it's starting to become more and more a norm in the club industry, that you have a vision, you have a mission statement that aligns the team. But then that I can't get my phone to want to dial back here. But it's then taking that and having it work through all of your department and your leads, so that you're gaining their expertise, their what they need, what they believe needs to happen in order to support that vision and that mission for the club. And they're really the developers of the plan. My role then is to support the team, build confidence in each and every one, be the one that is asking the questions. Do you have all that you need? And then a key word here is accountability. Oftentimes, I think early on in my career, where I was reluctant sometimes to step in and ask a question, why are we behind here? Or, what do you see as the trend line here that, we can focus in on? And you need to ask those questions, because that's the accountability side. And that's where you're helping that team member to push forward. So, I'll kind of pause there. Lead by example, transparency, really understanding the purpose of the club, of what the organization is trying to accomplish, and then making sure that the objectives and their business plans align to that vision for the club, and you're supporting it. At the end of the day, you're getting the work done through your team. They're really the tip of the sword. You're there, supplying the ammunition, the support, the encouragement, and confidence, that they can get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great leader once tell me, if you have a great team and you're their leader, you'll feel more like you're working for them than they're working for you. And I think that's a lot of what I'm hearing
right
from you and your philosophy there. Keith, I'll pose that same question, right back to you. Anything different or that you would want to add to what Bill already offered?
Well, I agree 100% with what Bill said, leading by example, and, being that team leader and looking for accountability. We're fortunate enough here to where we've got a relatively small team. We're golf only, so with limited food and beverage. So it's really, our focus is more narrow than a lot of other places are. But so with a little bit smaller team, I really like to focus in on really trying to make it that the team's a family, that, and being part of a family, we're going to disagree at times. We're not going to get along at times, but at the end of the day, we all come together when we work towards that common goal. And I think that does, knowing that fosters some, ideas and thoughts and brainstorming, which sometimes work, sometimes don't. So, but one of the biggest things I think that when I stepped into this role as the general manager, was really understanding the human side, not only overseeing, at times overseeing the golf staff could be, in hindsight, everybody kind of has that same focus. You're dialing in on the same thing. But then when you throw the locker room guy in, and then you throw the maintenance guys in, and you throw the food and beverage team in, you've got a lot of different personalities and a lot of different, kind of needs from their perspective. So really trying to look at the human aspect of managing people, that we've all got our things, our burdens that we're bearing, and just trying to really get to know them a little more, spending time with them, even if it's a brief, 1 or 2 minute conversation in the morning of just, how you doing? Just try to dial in. Is there something there that, that we can help with as a department, or that I can help with as a leader? So that human side was the part of it that really, at times you can get lost in the numbers sometimes of just managing your staff and managing the dollars, but that human side is something that's really important to me.
Yeah, super. I would also say, from my aspect, I would make sure that I said I manage by walking around. It's kind of my philosophy too. If you're holed up in an office inside 4 walls all day, you don't really see what's going on your property. And so I try to make sure that I'm making the rounds. And earlier in my career, I felt like every day I tried to make the same rounds at about the same time. And then, if you're really wise, you realize that, well, different people are executing different tasks at different times. So when you can vary that schedule a little bit, you might notice how things are either better or worse at a different time of day, be it because of a situation that is due to a team member, or because it's a situation that is something beyond everybody's control. The sun is just hitting the wrong spot in the window, and the glare is such that you can't see the customer's eyes when they walk in the door. You might not notice that if you're in the golf shop at 8:30 and you do at 10. So that's something that I've tried to do on top of that. And the only other thing that I'll add to what you all have already said is I try to view myself as kind of the coach of the team. Keeping in mind that sometimes the team loses games because the coach doesn't have the right game plan. Sometimes the team succeeds despite their coach's poor decisions. So we try to look at it every season, not unlike a basketball team, that some things are going to go well, some things are going to not go so well. How are you going to react, and how are you going to plan either for the next game or plan for the second half of this one as well? So kind of my philosophy there on how I view myself, I think, in that role. And then as far as that line of communication, I'll start here and say that we have a weekly team meeting every Wednesday, 2 o'clock. You can count on it. We've all got it blocked on our calendars. All of our team leaders are expected there. Finding that time that works for everybody is incredibly difficult, because food and beverage doesn't want an 8 o'clock meeting, where golf might prefer that 8 a.m. meeting. Golf is usually rocking and rolling at 2 or 3, 4 in the afternoon, and food and beverage has that lull between lunch and dinner. But we really make it a point to get everybody in the room together. We just go over the calendar 2 weeks out, maybe touch on any big picture items that are a little further out than that. And it gives everybody a chance to say, hey, what are you working on that maybe I could help you with from a golf side, or a food and beverage side, or a membership and marketing side. And it's amazing the solutions that come out of the room when different departments are there talking versus working on that island or in that silo. So much the same for the two of you. Do you all have a regular scheduled meeting? Is it more than weekly? Is it monthly? How do you handle those scenarios?
Keith, I'll go ahead and jump on it first. Absolutely. We have our weekly staff meeting, but we also have a guidance team meeting, once a month for the key reports. That when there's virtually any key decision here at the club, I'm making that decision with my department heads and my leadership team. I'm not making it in an office by myself. And we have a set agenda, yes, but we also have an open aspect of that agenda that anybody can speak to this group, whether it be the regular leadership meeting that we hold on Thursday afternoon at 1:00, or whether it be our guidance team, where we're really thinking more strategically and managing our quarterly objectives to stay on track. So drilling down a little further, we do lineups with our food and beverage team. Kelly, I really connected well with what you said about, management by walking around and also doing it at a cadence that's different, because that's important to the team to know that you're available, that you're there, whether it be the scullery team in the evening, and they're really grinding away, during dinner service, or whether it be the rackets group, getting the paddle courts ready to go in the middle of a snowstorm. It's great to see, the leader down with a coat, ready to take a shovel and move, help them out. So, we do our lineups, and I like to attend those for food and beverage, typically 2 to 3 times a week. I don't really attend the department head meetings. I want the departments to be able to manage on their own. But if they'd like me to be there, of course, I'm there.
Super.
Yeah, we're along the same lines, Kelly. We do Wednesdays at 10 a.m. So, which that kind of works, kind of into our schedule. And we have it with our department heads, which includes, our golf professional, food and beverage director, superintendent, our communications, Aaron Horn is there. Our HR and office manager is there. Our caddy master is there. So we really include a large group there. And basically, the way we do it is we kind of go around the room. We hit each department, and knowing that they all overlap, so that, and we chime in when we have some questions or things that, if food and beverage has a question about, what's happening on this day for member guests, then we make sure we hash that out. And that's a good time for us to catch up. And, anything that's going on at the facilities, it's a great time for our superintendent to while he's in constant communication with our golf ops staff, it's still good for me to hear all of that as well, and for the food and beverage department to hear what's going on the golf course. Keeping all of that interrelated, I think, is very important. Because there's no telling when, one of our service staff's going to hear members talking about the bunker on number 2, or say, hey, what is going on over there? And, and if they can answer that, wow, boy, what a home run that is. So just trying to keep everyone in the know, I think is so important. But then also those walk-arounds that we've all talked about, those are so important to be able to see someone, if I walk back in the kitchen and to be able to see them and how they're interacting with one another, what's the stress level like? Is there something I need to do or I need to say to kind of break the ice and get everybody rolling in the same direction again? I think those interactions on the walk-arounds are very important, because I think you can, most of us have been in the industry long enough where we can get that read on people and get that read on our team and kind of say, okay, something's a little sideways here today. We need to figure out what's going on. So those are extremely important. Not only look at the facility, what the facility looks like, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be fixed, what not. So, I think those walk-arounds are something that's very important.
Yeah, I love what you said. They're getting a read on the team. There's so much. It's like you said, it's the human element, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got something different going on in their world. When their car door shuts and that foot hits the parking lot, whether they're going to have a great day or going to be a little off today, it's our job as leaders to be able to identify that and try to help them through it so that they're a great teammate and that they can help others in that same vein. So that's just a fantastic thought. You've both talked about your team. But we're a seasonal business, whether you're year round or not. We have golf as our backbone of a lot of what we do. how are you guys finding the team members you need in this environment, especially to fill those part-time seasonal positions?
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Bill. Yeah, I tell you that's, like everybody knows, that's one of the most difficult tasks, especially right now, is to find those seasonal people that can come in and fill the roles, and finding good people.
Mhm.
We've been fortunate on the intern side for golf and golf course maintenance to be able to visit the colleges, lay some seeds, some groundwork, and be able to create some pipelines that we've been fortunate to have some great interns coming in. And one thing there that makes it difficult is with the interns is housing. I mean, nowadays you really got to have housing, and we were fortunate enough to have, while they're not great, we've done a lot of work on them in the last year and a half to bring we have some houses on property that we were able to bring up to speed, and that's what we use them for. We use them for our interns. Our golf course maintenance staff, gosh, several years ago, we actually, we made the decision to hire a company called Triple H Services that recruits H-2B visa workers.
Mm-hmm.
That's been an unbelievable source for us. When you look at the whole package, it does seem expensive, but at the same time, you're guaranteed that you're going to have a number of guys, to be seasonal workers, and they're going to be here for 6 months. We know their start date. Well, I say we know their start date. Sometimes it depends on visas and what the government's doing, but we pretty much know their start date and their end date. And while sometimes it's a little difficult, you may have to do some additional training, but boy, it sure beats the wall we used to face when you get to August and September. You're entering your prime agronomic season, and your seasonal people know that they're going to be done in 2 months, so they go ahead and leave in August.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty neat process for us. And one of the things we're doing probably ties in a little more with food and beverage for some of our service staff. We have a lot of college kids that come in, and we're developing it's kind of a mentor program, but really it's just an avenue to get our staff members out in front of the members. All of our members, they're the community leaders. They own businesses that they're hiring. So what we're gonna kick it off this spring, but it's basically going to be a questionnaire for our team that our members will have access to. It'll have some personal information in there. It'll have some, just what are my hobbies. It'll have what they're studying in school. It'll have, do you want to relocate to another area? Where would you like to work, or what would you like to do? Just so they can learn a little bit more about, learn about our team and know them when they come in. But also, if that works out to be a pipeline where some of our stars, are with us a couple of years and the members get to know them, that could be an avenue for them to move on and really work in their vocation, what they're going to school for, what they're studying. So that's a program that we really hope to get off the ground. It's kind of been, I would say, an underlying thing thus far, not really something that the club did, but more the members would see these college kids, really like them, and hire them.
Yeah.
But now we're going to work on facilitating it just a little more so that we get everyone out there. And then hopefully that'll create a pipeline, that you get someone who gets a great job from Valhalla, maybe they can form that pipeline from University of Louisville or University of Kentucky or wherever it might be. But yeah, hiring seasonal is difficult. It's a difficult thing to do.
There's no doubt. And I'll add in before we give Bill a chance here. We've done an employee spotlight in our weekly communications where we pick somebody from the agronomic team, whether we pick somebody from food and beverage, the golf side. And I don't just mean like part-time seasonal. We might use a cook that's worked here for 15 years and highlight what Stan Beeler does for a little while. And then the next one might be somebody who's been with us literally a month. and much the same as what you all are doing. Just put a spotlight on what they do, what their interests are, and show that they're human. Away from the club here, I'm sure they may make a mistake or bring you a wrong drink or something, but it's great to connect on that human level to remind everyone that, hey, this is a college person who is looking for their career, and give them a little slack as well as support them and potentially bring them along and mentor them as well. So love what you're doing there. Bill, from a staffing and team building standpoint, what else can you offer?
Well, here at Huntington Valley, we're in a pretty good position. We balanced our team to really generate a core full-time team, so we had less reliance upon seasonal help. Now, looking at the golf maintenance operation, that's probably the most impacted area. That's very difficult to be able to bring staff on board here. So we're not completely immune to it in Huntington Valley, but we have a good position here with universities to bring summer help in for, food and beverage, filling in the gaps, as well as the pool. With our golf maintenance operation, and Keith, you hit on it right away, we're really seeding into, the universities and the agronomy programs, and trying to, build those relationships so that we can draw those students over. And that's with our new golf course superintendent. We just had our superintendent retire after 43 years. That's quite a run. And our new super coming in is really working hard on finding staff. But Keith, I want to go back to something you said, and that's hiring the right team and making solid hires based upon the need for the positions is so vitally important. Something that we've worked on very, very hard here during the realignment of the team to about a 60% full-time, 40% part-time. That's about our balance. But going back to Half Moon Bay, was a different circumstance altogether. Half Moon Bay was sort of remote compared to the Bay Area, and gaining seasonal help was extremely difficult. And we found the need to make recruitment a priority. Our recruitment focused in on the community colleges, but also internal, referrals, from the team. And, we felt the need at the time to really, be a leader in, what our compensation plans look like. And we instituted retention bonuses, for the staff that met criteria, knowing in order to hit that retention bonus, they had a minimum number of days a week that they had to be available. And that worked. We were able to keep team members from leaving us for the early part of August for that 2-week vacation before getting back to school. They wanted to hang in there for the get their retention bonus, and they did. And internally, referrals was more than 35-40% of what we brought in board. So, outside of that, I want to make one other comment. While I haven't experienced it at the club level at the Ritz-Carlton, my wife would recruit J1s to come in. And, we interacted a great deal with that team. I felt the diversity in the workplace was fantastic to learn from this group of individuals and students that came over for 6 months. We never quite got it off the ground at the golf course in Half Moon Bay, and don't have a need for it here necessarily. But I will say that having, that different look in the workplace and different level of experience, skills, cultural influence, was a real good thing. So hope that adds a little bit.
No doubt. I know there in Philadelphia, we used to have kind of a joke at the house. We'd play that game, who's on Kentucky's basketball schedule. And we look at these first 6 or 8 games that they would play, and it was a school you hadn't heard of. And you say, where in the heck is that? And about half the time, if you just said near Philadelphia, you would be correct. There are so many colleges and universities there that what a great resource to have right in your backyard. I keep something, I'm going to lean over here, but I went through a period of time, and I have all these applications, and I know you're like, why in the world is he using paper? But these were folks who had signed off on background check forms so that we could or couldn't decide to hire them about this time last year and through early April. And I've kept that right on the floor near my desk as a reminder. When you got good people, even when you get frustrated with them, just hold their hand and help them along, because trying to find more good people it's just an exercise in futility these days. So that's my little reminder, as elementary as it may seem, that it's so much easier to keep them than it is to find them. So one more little nugget for those who may be trying to hire. Somebody put me onto an online portal called Jazz HR, and Jazz HR posts your jobs on a number of different job boards. Now, Jazz HR is a paid service, but you can pay monthly or you can pay annually. And I can tell you that paying annually is about half the cost of what you'd pay if you keep it on monthly. But you can post about 3 jobs at a time, and then you can pay for a different level there and post more. But our managers all know that they have access to this. It sorts the jobs into a kind of a funnel, if you will, for their specific department. And you can kind of check off things through the hiring process. They've had a phone screen, they've had a background check, they filled out their paperwork, you're ready to hire. And I can kind of drop in on that at any time. As a matter of fact, I still get all of the emails for every single person who applies for any position here. So I kind of can keep my managers in check there, or support them is a better way to say it. When I see a lot of applications coming through, I'm going, hey, why this person? Or look, this person was an intern at Valhalla. I know somebody we can call and really understand what kind of a worker they were. So that's my little, maybe my tip of the day, my hidden gem that has worked really well for us for just about a year now. On that, we're talking about how we serve the members with our teams. Best practices from the two of you. Is there a specific touch point that you're using, or that, whether it's conscious or unconscious, for building lasting relationships and providing first-class service? And Bill, I'll maybe turn to you first on that one, because you're fantastic at it.
I got to tell you, Kelly, the most important, I guess, focus that I have with, creating a great member experience is presence. And being in the picture as opposed to watching it from outside. And we're golf professionals here, but I'll tell you, I spend a great deal of time in the dining room, and following the sequence and service with the team, and making my way to the tables, because those dinner discussions, which last 2 to 3 minutes with our members, provide a great deal of insight to how the club is really being perceived and enjoyed by our members. And then presence, we're at critical events, and there's, depending on how you view your club and what type of activity you have, but the significant, I call them citywides or heritage events, you're just need to be in the middle of that, not watching, but right in the middle of the pack, interacting with your membership. I'd say that's first and foremost, but we also have, I think it's important. It's been an important resource for us. We have a measure in place for our food and beverage operation that measures perfection. All right, and you say to yourself, well, gosh, why are you measuring perfection? And particularly when it comes to food and beverage, and I think there's application to golf. We're working on this, but there's just so much to really creating the experience. And to create a great experience, we want to measure the amount of times that we do it perfectly. And by doing so, it elevates the staff's focus on delivery of what particular element of the service it is. And as an example, sequence in service is getting a drink to the table within 5 minutes upon being seated. We're measuring that, and when we miss, all right, we're reporting that. And what we measure as success, or how we measure success, is on a 1 to 10 scale. If we're getting 40% hits as perfect, we consider that KPI, or that net promoter score, to be a target. You're always shooting for 40% perfect scores, and it's made a difference for the team. It's 5 minutes is not 6, 7, 8, 3 minutes can make a difference. It's 5 minutes, and we're really dialing that in. So we forward to all of those that make their way in, for dinner, and those that don't have reservations, that would be our grill. We actually take a cross section of those that have engagements in the grill area, and we send them a survey every month. And it has made it a remarkable difference, in our team's ability to get better, because they're striving to perfection.
So you're surveying a member who has an engagement every month. That's what I heard you say, or in that particular month. Is that
right?
Did I interpret it correctly?
Well, it depends on the operation. For our main dining room, everyone that has a reservation, they receive a brief survey that asks them, how would you rate our service? And if we have anything less than 4 out of 10 as 10s, we consider ourselves below the mark of where we want to be. And then we also measure what we consider to be the lead objectives to meeting that 10, right? What are the key drivers to gaining a 10? The use of our members' name, again, the quality of the food, the quality of the delivery of the menu, the speed of service, and always the first drink, right? Getting the first drink on the table is critical, the way we see it. That would be our dining room. In our pub, you don't have a reservation, but 75% of our members use the pub. I'm sorry, 75% of our food and beverage operation takes place in the pub. So we need to gain the same level of information for our team. Are we really hitting the KPIs the way we want? And we take a cross section of the 1,500 engagements that we had, and we vary it, and we survey them once a month and say, tell us about your experience. This only lasts, it's about a 15, all in 15 question survey that goes out with the opportunity to, provide us a comment as well.
Not to go too far down the rabbit hole, because Keith, I know you have more to add, but I'm intrigued here. What framework are you using to survey and to know who's had that engagement? Is it automated in some way, or is somebody literally saying we had 100 covers that night, and so these are the 100 who get the survey?
Yeah, well, the reservation system is automated, right? So the moment you make a reservation, our communications platform picks up on it. Members First picks up on it and fires the survey out.
Nice.
However, those that are dining in the pub, we actually have to go in and get the engagements, and we go to unique engagements. So if you were there one or whether one time or 20 times, you count as one. And we take the unique group of visitors that went into the pub. We divide it up into thirds, right, as to their support level, so that we hit folks that haven't been there a lot, folks that have been there, members that have been there a lot, and members that are basically in the middle of the average, to get us a good cross section and a good score. But there is a bit more manual activity to that one.
Yeah, that's intriguing, and I'll probably call you and pick your brain even more about that, as that's an area we're really focused on right now at Greenbrier.
I'll send you the survey. It was a game changer for us, Kelly.
Super.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Keith, not to leave you out of the discussion, because I've watched you do it, walking around Valhalla and making those one-to-one member servers, making people feel special. But what's behind that? What's your secret sauce there?
Well, I think, in general, Kelly, it's just, what we try to train the staff to do, our team, is really these warm and welcoming, type of personalities.
Yep.
It's that's genuine. I mean, that's a big deal for me, is genuine. I go to Chick-fil-A a lot. I love their sandwiches, but after the 13th time that someone has given me my pleasure, I'm thinking, do they really mean that?
Yeah.
So, while it's great, it may be a one-off, but we see our members a lot, and a lot of our guests we see on a frequent basis. So we really work with the staff for that warm and welcoming, sincere greeting and interaction with the members each time. It's one of the things that we battle the most is with our seasonal team is them knowing the members. They really, that's one thing that, we really get from the members. They want you to know them.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly trying to find tools and ways to engage the staff. We've done flashcards. I mean, we've done all kinds of different things of giving awards so they can get the names. We're looking at a new, I guess it's relatively new. It's been around for a little bit, but we're looking at the Pacesetter app to potentially help us with that as well. If you go all in with that, there's some really cool training tools with recognizing members, but also types of ways that we can know who the member is coming in the gate, and then push notifications go to the bag drop. They go to the dining space. So we're really looking at, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the technology area, but that's a big focus for us, is trying to really work with the team and having that core group that Bill had talked about. And we're trying to really develop that core group that we can keep. So you, in a sense, have a cheat sheet. When you've got someone that's been here for 5, 6, 7 years that knows the members, they can then really help those seasonal staff out. One of the biggest things, I think, from our perspective, is I call it looking around corners, basically trying to identify problems and solve problems before they become problems. And that can be as simple as monitoring the T sheet, having your dining staff monitoring the T sheet, and your locker room staff knowing when those crunch times are going to be, or if one all of a sudden pops up. In the middle of February, you get those 70-degree days, Kelly, like we're talking about, and that's tough on a seasonal operation. You can go from 0 to 100 folks in a heartbeat. So really having everyone on board with trying to identify problems before they happen. I think that's one of the biggest parts of member service, along with just being engaged, knowing who's on property. If it's a national member that I haven't seen for a while, I see him on the T sheet, I'm going to make an effort to go find him at some point during the day and say, "How are you, Mr. Smith? Good to see you. Glad you're back." So I think those engagements go a long way. So that's where our focus tends to. We don't really do a lot of surveys. We did some for a bit, kind of on and off every other year. We were on a cadence of doing them, but we haven't done one in a while. So we try to really keep a pulse on, talking with our members, interacting when they're on property. You can, or even golf lessons or playing around to golf with them. It's amazing what you can find out in a golf lesson with a member, how you're doing. Not only are you helping them with their game, but boy, you're finding a lot of little nuggets that can be very useful for us in our time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I know Bill says he does a great job of it in the dining room, and I wish I were more comfortable in that space like he is. But when I can get out on the golf course with my members, it's amazing how you hear about the steak that was either the best they've ever had or maybe left a little bit to be desired, because you've taken the time to spend an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours with them playing 9 holes. And even to that point, now that we have a winter facility here with our 4 golf simulators, I mean, this afternoon I've got 7 members and myself, and we're going to have an 8-man 4-ball game going. And they love it because they're bought in. It's amazing how after you play with them, they all of a sudden need a lesson from you. Or you can, introduce them to another member of the team for some instruction as well. So I can't agree more that there's no better way than just being with your customer and, again, getting outside of the 4 walls on the golf course in the dining room. It shouldn't be a secret, but I think it is a little bit of a secret for some. So something nobody loves to discuss, but we'll touch on it briefly, is just budgeting. I mean, we've been in this incredible time of inflation, and it seems like every time you open an invoice now, it's gone up another 5 or 8%. Yet the world's telling us that we're on like a 3% kind of average inflation. How are you guys managing through that? How are you gauging your cost increases? Is it just totally handled by a board? Do you have a lot of say in that? And how frequently can you increase prices to try to meet your budget expectations?
You want to go ahead, Bill?
Yeah, go right ahead. Take that one.
Okay. Well, it's been a true adventure for us here lately with changing ownership. So it's been great, but it's they really rely on me and our department heads to formulate these budgets and to put together a presentation that basically explains why we've done what we've done. That was probably one of the greatest things I learned from Jimmy Terry when he was at PGA Golf Club. A good mentor of mine was the art of the presentation and telling the story that you feel like you need to tell in a way that makes sense. Because ultimately, I think whether you have a board or an individual owner, I think if as the general managers, the head professionals, department heads, if we can kind of direct the story and direct the line and tie the dots together for them, I think ultimately that's what a lot of boards and people are looking for. That they want some, something that makes sense, the rationale of why you've budgeted, how you've budgeted, and that ties in with the price increases. I mean, it's we're seeing it everywhere. Food and beverage is probably, that's the area that I'm like you, Kelly. I'm a little bit of a fish out of water there, but we're trying to we're looking at buying programs. We're constantly looking at are there comparable products out there that we can partner with someone and get better pricing. Our efficiencies, can something we do make our efficiencies better to save costs in the labor area. So it's a constant back and forth. But yeah, it's this year for us, it was really, we haven't had a normal year yet.
Right.
We changed ownership in 22. So that was kind of half a year of learning. 23, we started all these massive renovation projects. So that was a learning story. And now we've got the PGA Championship. So it'll really be interesting to kind of see what the business model morphs into and becomes for us as we move down the road here a little bit. But yeah, it's constantly evaluating what we're doing. You've got to constantly evaluate your vendors. If, we'll see fuel surcharges. They may waive it, they may not, but I'm going to call our waste disposal guy and say, hey, I see a $29 charge on here. Is there any way we can get that waived? You never know till you ask. So, that's kind of a little bit of the philosophy we are too. It may seem like small amounts, but they add up over time, and it shows your owners or your board that, hey, I'm being proactive. I'm trying to make this operate as effectively and as efficiently as I can.
Yeah, great advice. Bill, anything to add there?
Yeah, I thought that was well said. We operate much the same. We look for the staff. Our membership looks for the staff to really deliver a presentation on their various departments. The two biggest, of course, food and beverage and golf maintenance, that are driving the major expenses. But, with that, food and beverage, as you had mentioned, Keith, is, perhaps one of the more impacted areas with inflation most recently. And, also when I say inflation, just with the cost of labor to be able to recruit, people that want to take these jobs. It's a different workforce these days than it once was. For the first time in some time, I looked at our food and beverage operation. I said, hold on a minute. Let me bring someone out from the outside, take a fresh look at this and, see something that, we're not seeing. And that took a lot, to go to your two department heads and say, let's do it a little different this year. Let's open up, our eyes a bit, bring someone in and be honest and share everything we have going on. So we're in the middle of that exercise right now. Administratively, we brought in, one of our members that's fantastic in finance, and had that person take a look at some of the, high cost items that we view every year, which is insurance, property, our property taxes, and of course our energy costs. We took a look at those this year and actually had somebody else that's good at it. really to dive into, because you just can't be good at everything. This goes back to your network. Otherwise, we are still focused hard on managing to the experience and not managing to a number. And that's sometimes a real difficult sell when you stand in front of a membership that's used to 3%, 2 and 3% year over dues increases, and then all of a sudden, we're back to back double digits. We should have been back to back double digits, and we weren't. So we're kind of catching up from last year, but keeping that discipline that you're managing to the experience, and you can't just set a number and try to drive towards it. That's been a mistake that I think many make, that takes them down the wrong path.
Yeah, you can miss a lot of opportunities if you're trying to manage to a number.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, hey, we've got a great opportunity here, and granted, it might push this particular line item way out of budget, but we need to seize this opportunity while it exists, because
Right.
it may not be there in 6 months or a year and a half, when we feel like the budget would be better prepared for it. So great advice there. Something a little bit more fun, and probably my favorite part every time we have one of these conversations, is trends in our industry. How do you all identify things you want to try? Where do you see the ideas? And then how are you using technology maybe as a trend or to enhance that experience?
Well, I'll kind of jump on, at least the perspective I take. I really look to the audience that we have, and the audience that we had in Half Moon Bay at the resort is a heck of a lot different than the audience that we have here at Huntington Valley. So, taking a look at, that resort experience, I like to take a look at the great experiences I've had in traveling and making it outside the operation that I had. And, Kelly, we had a great opportunity to see some pretty great places and ask questions about a great experience that you had, and then try to translate that and bring it back. As an example, today in the resort industry, people, guests want what they want, right? And it's very customized, as opposed to I guess in the past, where it's more or less the mapped experience. I think, Keith, your word genuine here is really important, right? Where can we genuinely make a connection and deliver something that's, over the top, to that particular guest? I was at a resort in Southern California, and a good friend of mine was the operator there. And I asked him about, how did you deliver this? And it was a technology where when you checked in, almost immediately you received a text message that said, it wasn't an automated text message. It was actually a person that was managing this, was available to you throughout the day to do an airdrop wherever you were, and kind of meet your needs. So I think, it's seeing technology in a way that you can customize the experience is something I learned in the resort side of things. That was a big deal and a big trend. Coming over to Huntington Valley Country Club, where we have the greatest shower in the United States of America, because it hasn't changed in forever. I still remember it when I was an apprentice. I'm still using those words, Kelly, right? Dating myself again. But I was an apprentice, and I came in and had a shower, and it was an unbelievable experience here. This group is reluctant, in many ways to see the experience change. They kind of like that, right? So, here we needed to be a little more subtle, and, introduce the contemporary type things differently, to our members. So I'd say we stepped more slowly here in the private club to keep it, very high touch as opposed to high tech. But I'll say I won't stop. I'll kind of stop there, because I am definitely interested in learning about Pacesetter. I think that would be a really cool way to use our members' name, and that's probably the most important thing that we can do here is, acknowledge our members use their names and learn their preferences. So I'll kind of stop there.
Well, let's hear about Pacesetter, Keith. I wrote it down here in my notes too. So
Well, I agree with Bill too, with visiting other top clubs, and I wanted to add one other thing that maybe Kelly, it's something that we could get started here at some point. I'm on a really interesting email chain, an email thread that it's I don't know if you all know Phil Owenby. He kind of was a mentor of mine as I jumped into this GM role. He was at Kenlock for a while and Roanoke Country Club, just a really sharp guy. But he started this email chain where basically he's the facilitator, and if someone has a question within this chain, they send it to Phil. Phil sends it out to the group, and then the responses kind of start flowing in of how you do things. It's grown from probably about maybe 12 people 10 years ago to now there's probably 50 covering both coasts and all over the places by the time, assistants get involved in different things. So that may be an interesting way that we kind of get something flowing here in Kentucky, Kelly, it's kind of an open forum, but, we like to, with some, confidentiality there, but just basically sharing ideas. Somebody has a question, they get a question out there, and then all the responses flow in, and then the light bulbs start going off of, oh, I didn't think of that. That's great.
Right.
But yeah, we're looking at Pacesetter. We don't have it operational yet. We've met with them and we want to kick it off this year after the championship, but it's a really interesting application. It's basically all run by the cell phone, by the mobile phone. And for us, the biggest hurdle we're trying to get through now is we want the members to use their phone to enter the gate instead of a gate card. And what that does, that they're at some clubs, they're at Grove 23 is a big club that they're using now. But basically it can be set up in such a way, and you can take it in depth. You can do mobile ordering on it. It can be a one-stop shop. They can register for events through it, everything. But one of the most intriguing things to me was to be able to have that recognition where if we have a tablet at our bag drop, in our locker room, in our food and beverage area, that when someone comes in the gate, it'll throw a push notification out and says, Kelly Williams has entered the property, and you can list with that. A photo will pop up, and it can also list preferences that, he likes a wet towel on the left side of his cart when he goes out, so the bag drop kind of knows what those outside services people know what's going on from the get-go. But also you can segment areas. Like for us, we have a lower end of our practice range that's for members only. And they can drive their cars down there. So a lot of times we'll have members on property that unless you drive down there, you really don't know that they're even here. So that was a point for us that we really wanted to get to. So if we know members there, we haven't seen them in a while, we can make that extra effort to go down. But it can also even segment down to if you're in the dining area, if they've got their phone with them, you can tap on this Pacesetter app and it'll tell you all the members that are in the dining space at that point. So it's really interesting. It has quizzes where multiple choice quizzes. It'll put a member's picture up there and give you 4 names, and you can go through and make your selection. Choose, and the results of that test can go to the department head, the general manager. So if you've got somebody who's really active in it and they're really taking the time to learn the members, maybe that's a $50 gift card or something, just to keep them going. So yeah, we're anxious to get it in and get going with it. They've been around for a little bit, and we talked to them at one point, but I think they've made some strides now to where that it may be a viable option for us, and really a nice tool to be able to use to have those touch points that we need.
So does that Pacesetter app, if I'm hearing you correctly, when you enter the gate, clearly you have to engage with the app, the gate, some sort of a significant distance away from that opener. But is it based on a geofence from that point forward? Is that how you know they're in the dining room if that phone is in their pocket?
Yes, that they can set areas of the club through geofencing. But yeah, basically the gate operation, it works with Bluetooth. So there's a scanner at the gate. You open the app and you can either set it to where you can wiggle it, or they can press a button that says open gate. Either way, and it's up to about 25 feet. But yeah, and then what they do is they go in and they set your areas that you want set up, and as long as the member has their phone with them, which nowadays, gosh, I'd say 99% of the people always have it with them, then it's a source of us being able to know who it is. We have a thing here. We don't really run a beverage cart, so the staff calls them airstrikes. When someone calls in from the golf course, so they can do their airstrike from this Pacesetter app, but then it also has the GPS on it, so we know exactly where they are. So that they weren't on 7T at one point, but now they're on 7 green. So we feel like there's a multitude of opportunity for us here from the golf side, from the food and beverage side, and just is the overall service.
Can't wait to check in a year and see how this has grown and developed for you all.
Yeah.
But
the big key, I think, with all the apps is you've got to have something that triggers them to use it, and that's what intrigued me with the gate.
Yeah.
If you have to use it to get in the gate, then you're going to be engaged in the app.
Right.
So that was the big thing for me.
To kind of initiate it and get it going. I would just add to this conversation, much like Bill, I mean, I love to go places and visit and see other experiences and have other experiences. I think that probably we as golf professionals, and we see ourselves as servants, and we have that service mentality all the time. So we tend to want to do things, I don't want to say on the cheap, but we try to do it on a budget. And the reality is that that's not how members think, right? They think about, hey, it doesn't really matter what it costs. I want to have the best experience I can have. So trying to find a way, whether that's some budget from your leadership at the club, to go and have a week or a few days here and there of experiences that it doesn't matter what it costs, so that you think like that member thinks, is a good way to get into their shoes and really understand what they need and what they want. I'm fortunate that I've got somebody who he just wants to go play great golf courses. Didn't do that a lot growing up, even though he's a great player. And so every, 6 or 8 weeks, he'll just kind of walk in the office and say, I'm ready to go. Let's find a place, make some calls. And I go back to the network, with Bill there and his point. And we just call a few places and find somebody who will allow us to come and play golf and have a few experiences. Now, I'm doing it for him to have a great time. I'm doing it for me. A, it is a great time, but B, I'm learning every minute I'm on somebody else's property. What do I see that they're doing that makes a lot of sense? Or what do I see that they're doing? And I'm like, oh gosh, we're doing the same thing. And that's not maybe the way I thought it was coming off for our customers. So I kind of leave the experience and how I learn and how I like to develop kind of much the same as you all, and seeing others. From a technology standpoint right now, I'm really intrigued, and I am at the tip of the iceberg, standing there looking down into the water at this point, at the AI world that exists. I mean, we hear it all day, every day. I think I watched a really good presentation from the PGA show that was actually put on by the NGCOA. They had a guy named Paul Reitzer. I'm going to mispronounce his name, but he's kind of a leader in this AI space. And it was a little over an hour. The first 30 minutes were a lot to digest. Maybe I'd heard some of it before, but the last 30 minutes, I felt like I found a lot of nuggets. So I'm really challenging our team to find ways to create genuine communication through ChatGPT and things like that. I don't want it to be my pleasure 12 times in 8 minutes. I'm with you, Keith. I feel like the ChatGPT world can kind of put you into that kind of a stale language, if you will. But there are also ways that we're using it to develop policies, procedures, maybe a sign that's just written just the right way. And then the last one I'll leave you with too is communication through video. We don't do enough of that here at Greenbrier. We're trying to do more. I was shooting these videos And I look down, I'm like, my gosh, it takes me, 4 hours to shoot a 2-minute video by the time I've got it kind of edited out the way I want. And in that podcast or that presentation from the NGCOA was Descript is the name of the software, this AI software that kind of does video editing and podcast editing for you. So that's probably the next rainy day that we have. When I have a moment, I'm going to dig in deep. I've already passed that on to our assistant GM to say, hey, man, you dive in. You're a little younger than I am, certainly even more comfortable in the tech space than I am. So I got a thumbs up from a Teams meeting just a little while ago that he's already kind of digging into that while we've been on the call today. So trying to use technology, try not to have too much of it, but at the same time, trying to meet people where they are is certainly a challenge in our industry right now. I'm just looking through kind of my remaining questions. We've touched on technology. I think Bill really touched on outside resources a little bit. Let's just kind of finish it up with kind of two more topics. We've had this incredible momentum in golf since COVID, and I want to hear your all's opinions on this. How do we avoid complacency now that, in a way, it's gotten easier to drive rounds and revenues? Private clubs are, again, very popular, whereas maybe they weren't quite so popular pre-COVID. Momentum, and then just that general advice is kind of how we'll finish. So, Keith, talk to me. How do you avoid complacency? You've got a PGA championship. People are beating down your door to play there. You can raise prices and it doesn't change the interest level. What do you do to stay away from that?
Yeah, it's I've always been of the mindset where we constantly need to challenge each other to find some new and exciting ways to do it a little bit different each year. And that's a big part of what we talk about with the department heads of, like Bill mentioned something earlier where he kind of starts the conversation, but then we want the department heads to really get engaged and find these new and better ways to do things. And I see it as my part as the general manager is, when we vet these ideas out, I need to be the person that goes to bat to provide the tools for what we need, be it a Pacesetter app or better communication tools that Aaron Horn may need for us. So I think we've always been the type of facility where we constantly try to challenge to get better each and every year. And I think that, I do feel, Kelly, that competition is still there. And you're right. It's gonna, at some point, it's gonna get to the point again where it's not as easy as it is right now to drive the revenues that we're looking for. But again, other top clubs, visiting those type of places really gets my juices flowing. Seeing what they do, get a good sense of where the bar is set for us, because we, with our type of facility and what we want to be, what our vision is, we need to see where the bar is set for. So we're actually trying to get more of our staff members to go to experience that. We want our food and beverage, some of our food and beverage team to go down to Troubadour in Nashville and see what you're doing. Not just me traveling, but trying to get some of our department heads traveling as well, so they can see some of these operations and where the bar is. I think that's very important to know. If we want to be one of the top clubs in the country, where's that bar? What do we need to do to keep getting better? So that's a big focus for us with trying to keep the momentum.
Yeah, Bill.
I'll paint a funny story for you, because it kind of shows how much information is right at your fingertips if you just take the time to listen. I was on my way down to our Rackets campus, and on the way up to the clubhouse was one of our newer members. She is 34 years old and has been a member for less than a year. And she stopped me. She said, "Have you ever thought about, taking a group of your junior members and pulling your junior members to really develop, more opportunities for them?" And I went, oh my gosh, I'd love to have this conversation with you. I'm so in support of the growth of our family here at the club. And our junior programming is an incredible, focus of our committees, of my team, and of course myself. And she kind of smiled. She said, "Great. Well, why don't we, get together sometime? When's a good time for you?" And we exchanged some times and decided to look at our calendars and recommit. So unknowingly, she was really kind to me, because my interpretation of what she was looking for was completely wrong from what she actually said. I thought she was talking about kids, and what she was really talking about was her. Considering herself as a junior member, and she just didn't want to embarrass me, in front of her colleagues. So, we reconnected and had a great conversation, and it really reinforced my belief that during COVID, and some of my fellow colleagues here in Philadelphia have shared the same mindset. We have now attracted an entirely new member, to the club. It's a new demographic. It's the member of the future. And I think sometimes our mind is still set on the member, not necessarily of the past, but of the present. And we're not really dialed into how this new group of members, sometimes never been a member before, is, consuming and digesting the club. So we had a great meeting, and it ended up, I hope I'm answering your question, making fun of myself, but we made a decision to, basically build a quarterly open house to this group of junior members, where we would have fun, have a fun element to it. We would form a task force, not a committee, but a task force that would be the leaders of this. She would be that person, and I would be learning from this group as to not just how they are viewing the club and the events that we have, but how they would like to see them evolve and change, so that they're more directed towards this, I believe, club of the future concept. So that internally, I think was the biggest eye-opening experience for me. It's right at my fingertips. I need to recognize, where the future is, and try to drive towards it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story that you used, Bill, because when we built, we recently completed a lifestyle center here, 16,000 square feet of fitness, bar, patio, golf simulators, group exercise space, kid space. And the first thing we did when we were really close, I mean, we had a plan that we were ready to take out to a bid. And we're not committee run, we're privately owned. So we can make our decision and go with it. Now, clearly we have to make the right decision for fear of losing half of our customer base, because then it wouldn't be much of a decision at all. But we gathered a group of junior members in the room. And my owner was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea, but why the juniors? And I said, well, because they're the ones who can barely afford it right now, who want to see the most and the fastest change. So we need to put this in front of them to understand if the budget's still going to work for them to be a member at the club. And then if this is really what they want. Not to say that I don't care about the 55 to 80-year-old member, because I do. That's who got me to where I am and got the club to where it is. But those folks are going to be have a little more comfort with whatever the change is from a price standpoint. And frankly, they probably don't want to see anything change anyway. They were happy with the way it was. So if you constantly are led by that group, nothing ever changes, right? So I couldn't agree more that listening to that junior member is a fantastic source of where you need to grow and how you need to grow, but also not losing sight of who you are. We've gone through this kind of fundamental change as a club since that addition, and it's been really interesting to stand back and watch the picture or watch the movie from the outside. But also know that at any moment we step right into it and we're living it as well. And boy, there's all kinds of conversations that could stem from how that goes. I bet Keith's got a bunch of good ones too, based on what he's been going through there as of late. So the last thing, and certainly if there are any questions from our small group, please post them over here. But how do you guys stay sharp professionally? And then the question I always love to ask of all of our panelists, if you'd offer one piece of advice to a golf professional seeking entry into executive management, what would it be? So how do you stay sharp, and what's that one piece of advice that you might offer to anyone, younger, older, whatever, who's looking at maybe moving from head golf professional, director of golf, to GM role or an assistant GM role? So who wants to tackle that one first?
I'll jump in here. Just as far as trying to stay professionally sharp, it's, we've talked a lot about visiting other facilities, and mentioned that email chain that I'm on. I mean, things like learning from our peers. And I've always said, and I think many people have said, very few ideas are original. They're stolen. The best ideas are stolen. So we'll call it borrowed. We won't call it stolen. So I still think that for me, that's one of the most valuable parts, the mentors that I have in the industry, like you, Kelly, reaching out to them when there is a difficult decision or a difficult something that, that we just need a little more advice on, or a little sounding board. I think those are the ways that I look, and go through the publications as well. Obviously that's a great source, but I definitely learn more from my peers, and hearing what they do and the challenges that they have is I think by far the way that I stay involved in the industry and try to be relevant. As far as a piece of advice, I think you have to be consistent in your decision making, and your team has to know that they have your back. The consistency with your decision making, so that we have a vision, we have a course, and making decisions that are consistent with that, so you don't confuse your team and one direction one week, one direction the other. I talk to a lot of golf professionals that have boards, and that's one of the most difficult things that they deal with. So I think from the general manager standpoint, it's up to us to disseminate that information from the board and really try to be as consistent with our decision making as we can, and then to let your team know that you've got their back. That's that's one of the most important things, that they know that you trust them and you can empower them to do their job. That was a long-winded one thing, but
no, that's super. That's super.
I agree with everything, Keith. I'm not so sure I have a whole lot to add. I will say that I've learned reading more so later in my career has become more and more important. Dialing into some publications that are really current and relevant, and staying up on it. It's just helpful a lot to drive home a message that you might be wanting to deliver to the executive committee or to the board, and you're able to reference, a recent publication that has come out. It's so helpful in bringing into the room, to support what you're doing. Most recently, and I think, Kelly, you might know this from our conversations, I've really been an advocate for certificate courses, and an advocate for certificate courses for the PGA of America to really, think more about, given our relationships with the many universities. They all have a certain level of expertise that they can lend to us. I've been dialing into Cornell most recently with their leadership. I enjoyed some of the CMAA work that I did up in Cornell. So there's a lot out there, and it also helps you to be, remember leadership changes, over time, and there's something new that's always bubbling up to get there. So those are two, and I think, Keith, you hit it. Your network, right? Something comes up, really jump out and not just, call your network, but be involved. And, I'm hopeful that, we'll continue to have these opportunities for our members where, we actually are in a environment where we're talking, not just having interaction digitally or over the phone. As far as, what I would say, for those that want to, get involved in, executive management, or leadership, I would say that it's knowing that the workload is not going to get lighter. It's not going to, really understand that you're on it all the time, and your mind is constantly engaged. Even I think we can say that we walk off site and we leave our thoughts at work, but I don't know that that's the case, right? It's the workload isn't necessarily going to get lighter, and know that whatever you're bringing today, tomorrow it has to be better, and you're constantly getting better yourself. So in the words of my really good friend, Ed Ibargwin, getting better every day, that's a mindset that you have to really believe in, and, and take to heart. And that's what you're bringing to your team. You're getting better yourself. Your connections are more genuine. And it's that attitude and that culture that you bring. If you have that getting better every day attitude, and you're willing to know that your workload is going to constantly change, it's never going to be the same bar. It's always going to move. Every day is going to be different. No Groundhog's Day taking place, in the club. Then you're probably going the right direction, right? And just keep doing it.
Yeah, all fantastic advice from both of you. And I'll only add that, I've actually been working toward my master professional designation here as of late. And at first, I wasn't sure if that was something I wanted to do or why I would want to do it. And then as I had conversations with PGA educational staff and started to really understand it and dig into it, it's a holistic view at your facility if it's in an executive management avenue or pathway, if you will. And it's been great for me because I've looked back at things that maybe I haven't visited in 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, and I've found things that we're doing. And I'm like, this makes no sense. Why do we continue? But I'm okaying it. I've been okay with it. But it's been great to sit and write about and read about our own club to learn more about our practices. So that's a way I've challenged myself, and I think it's working well. We're seeing things that at least I believe are improvements since we've started that. And then that last piece of what would I tell somebody who is thinking about it, you just have to be ready. When you're the golf professional, you get to be the hero most of the time. You help somebody get that ball off the ground or hit it 250 down the middle for the first time. Suddenly when you're the leader of the entire team or executive manager, you get stuck a lot more often managing the rules and the regulations of the club, and sorting out maybe a poor behavior event that happened that sure, it was 1% of the membership, but you end up dealing more with that 1% than the 95 to 98% who are having a tremendous experience and a great time. So having that mindset is certainly a good way to go into it. And then, Bill, to your point, we have a saying here, and it's not our saying. We adopted it from a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, that you're either moving forward or you're moving backward. There is no such thing as staying right where you are, right? So you've always got to be looking ahead and trying to figure out how to keep pushing forward, because if you're stationary, somebody else is going to pass you in that space. So constantly staying hungry for improvement. So, well, gentlemen,
just one thing, Kelly, with the
Yeah.
with the looking to move into executive management, I want to say that it's been one of the most fulfilling things that I have done.
Yeah.
Having been a head golf professional for 15 years, I think this was a challenge that I needed, honestly.
Yeah.
Was I scared to death the first month I was trying to figure out what to do? Yeah, absolutely. But it's been one of the most rewarding times for me. I have a lot of fulfillment. You know, you see your department heads grow, and you see your facility. You're a big part of the success of the facility, even more so. So it's been a very rewarding time for me.
Yeah, great. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I realized maybe what I said came off a little negative, and then not at all. There's certainly plenty of hard days, but overall, I'm like you. I don't know that I could have stayed in the position I was in to this day. I needed a new challenge and a new way to grow and learn myself. So great point. And thanks for straightening me out there.
No. I totally was getting from where both of you were coming from. I playfully joke when someone says, "What's different being, what's different being the general manager versus the head professional?" I said, "Well, it's the head professional. You've got a bullseye on the front. You see what's coming. But as the general manager, it's on the front and the back. So sometimes you don't know where it's coming from."
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for spending the time with us today. On behalf of the Kentucky PGA, we always like to give our presenters a little something. And so keep an eye on your mailbox for a personalized Louisville Slugger bat. Just a little token of our appreciation for the time spent and the preparation for what we've done today. And so thank you so much, Bill and Keith, for your time today.
No, absolute pleasure, Kelly.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll have this posted for those who want to dig in and see some little part of it again, or for those who haven't seen it yet. And also keep in mind, we've got spring member conference right around the corner. So Keith, Bill, and everybody else on the call, Connie, thanks to our staff for putting this together. Appreciate you being here and taking some time out of your day. We'll let everybody get on with a busy Thursday afternoon, I'm certain.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.